Hello and welcome to Chapter 5, Lesson 1. In Chapter 5, we're going to learn how to work with layers within Illustrator. And for Lesson 1, we're going to learn how to create and modify our layers. So to complete this project, we are going to need to open 5-1 and 5-2 by going to Open, going to our Handout folder, then going to our business handout at the bottom, and going to Shonifer, Computer Graphics, Illustrator, and Chapter 5. And then what I need you to do is open 5-1 and 5-2. 5-1 is an image of just an empty room, and then 5-2 is going to be components that we're going to put into that room. So I want you to go to 5-1 and go to File, Save As, and you're going to name this file last name, comma, first name, and then space dash space, and it's going to be called Living Room. So you're going to have to save this on your H drive, of course. So go to your H drive. Mine looks a little different than yours. And go ahead and save it on your H drive. So once we work with our layers in Illustrator, it will show us different ways that we can compound things together. So the first thing that we're going to do is find our layers panel. So we're going to go to Window, up at the top, and we're going to select on Window, and then there will be an option called Layers, or you can hit F7 on your keyboard. And that's going to open up a new panel for you. Right now you should see one called Foreground and Empty Room. So there's a couple things that we can do here that I want you to note. In this first empty box, you can click on it and a little eye will appear. And what that's going to do is it's going to show everything on that layer, or when you click it again, it's going to hide everything on that layer. The box to the right of that is going to be where we can toggle either locking or unlocking the things in that layer. So if we click on this, the things on those layers cannot be moved, even if we use our selection key to click and drag to move those. And if you click on it again, you can toggle that layer to be unlocked. The next thing I'm going to show you is that if you click on these arrows, if it's facing to the right, that means it's collapsed. And then when it's facing down, it means it's expanded. And you're going to be able to see the images that are within these groups so that you can see which things are on which layer. And then you can go ahead and close them all up if you want. The next thing is if you double click on any of the gray areas on a layer, you're going to get a layers option box that pops up. This is where you can change the name, you can change the color, and change some of the other settings. Also, if you just double click on the words, you'll be able to change the name as well. And you can click anywhere in the artboard to go back to after you've renamed that layer. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to create a new layer. So I want you to make sure that your foreground is not visible and that neither of your layers are locked and only your empty room layer is visible. And then you're going to come over to your 5-2 file, take your selection tool, and click on your chair. And you're either going to do Control-C to copy or come to Edit and then Copy. Now we're going to go back to our living room file and we're going to come over to our layers panel. And at the bottom, there's all these different layer options. So make and release a clipping mask, create a new sublayer, create a new layer, and delete a selection. So we're going to create a new layer to put our chair on. And you'll notice now that a new layer has appeared just called Layer 3. We want to paste our chair onto Layer 3. So we're going to make sure that Layer 3 is highlighted. If foreground is highlighted, that's where our chair would end up. So let's make sure Layer 3 is selected. And then we're going to come up to Edit and Paste, or we're just going to do Control-V, which is also Paste. And I want you to take your selection tool, and I want you to move it over just to where it kind of looks like it's in front of the door sitting in the living room. And then you can click anywhere on your scratch board or artboard to deselect. So now let's go ahead. We're going to rename our layer. So we can either double click on the words, or we can double click anywhere in the gray to be able to rename that layer. And this one's going to be renamed Chair, and I want you to make sure that the color is green. or actually let's change this one to red. I believe light red is our option. And then hit OK. And then I want you to double click on your foreground layer, and I want you to change this foreground layer to green, just so that you can see how we can change those items. Then I want you to take your selection tool and just click on one of the walls. And you'll notice now that the layer that's highlighted has changed based on where this image is located. So if we select the chair using our selection tool, you'll notice that now the chair layer will be highlighted. So I want you to go ahead and save your work here and move on to lesson 2.